Good morning, Twin Cities. Welcome to Reckoning with Real Estate, a show about the American dream and building a better real estate company. I am joined today with two of our rec people, our rec agents, Taylor Hall, who you've heard from before. She's also a sponsor of the show, and Mark Byers, who is new to the podcast. So welcome, Mark, and you'll hear from him again. But today, so Mark and Taylor are both new agents. Oh, and I'm Paige Kale from the Real Estate Collaborative. I should probably say that. But Mark and Taylor are they're two of our newest agents. They both joined this year and they're brand new to real estate. So we thought it would be interesting to do a show about why rec makes sense for realtors. We're going to talk a little bit about their background, their experience joining rec, what made rec stand out to them. So that's what the next 30 minutes are going to be about. And we're going to start off with some introductions. Again, I'm Paige with the Real Estate Collaborative. Myself and a couple other realtors started rec 2.5 years ago. And so this is still kind of a work in progress, very much so. And I'll let Taylor introduce herself. And then Mark, you can introduce yourself and we'll get started.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, I'm Taylor Hall. I'm with the Real Estate Collaborative. I got my license back in March, I believe. And I also own a retail store, Evergreen Collective on Grand Avenue. We're a sponsor of the show. We sell sustainable home goods. So for me, joining rec was very much a natural alignment with that, because my shop is all about kind of trying to poke holes in the way commerce is done. And I think that the Real Estate Collaborative is poking holes at the way that real estate is done. And that is one of my favorite things, is breaking systems. I'm not much of a rule follower, which is a little tricky as a real estate agent. There are a lot of rules that we do have to follow. And that is my brief about me. I've lived in St. Paul for 8 years and I love it too. Yeah.
Cool. That's perfect. Yeah. And Mark, how about you? You have a fun origin story, I think, in terms of joining rec and your background and where you come from. So
yeah. So my name is Mark Byers, and I am new to rec and real estate from the agent's perspective, and actually new to the Twin Cities. We moved here this year earlier, and I got my license, and we've just kind of been feeling out what Midwestern culture is like, and we're actually loving it. So we came from Texas, and so we're kind of trading that unbearable heat for what supposedly is some really big cold coming, even though it's still kind of that myth for us yet.
Right.
So, but we know winter is coming. So,
yes.
But anyways, so I've spent the last 30 years as an IT high-tech consulting. I have my company that I've owned, that we've been working in the Austin area, all over in high tech. And so when we came here, we just fell in love with the city and the homes and the people. And it was just something that, from a real estate perspective, that my partner and I have done for a long time, and we just do that well together, because she came from interior design. She spent many years in that, so she likes designing homes, and the homes here are just amazing. So we just naturally transitioned over. We said we wanted to do more of that, and she met Taylor at her shop,
Right.
which is kind of where we were, kind of really close, walkable where we're staying, and Taylor was just like all about rec and said that, hey, if you're doing that, and we were looking at the natural progression. So and then I met with Taylor and Paige, and that's kind of how we're here now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're glad that you and Ashley landed in St. Paul, because I know you were looking in Minneapolis too. And I think I speak nothing against Minneapolis, but Minneapolis tends to think they have St. Paul beat, and almost every way. So it's nice when people choose St. Paul and this
Right.
side, of the river. And let's dive in. So we're going to start with a question that I'll pose to both Taylor and Mark. I think what's really interesting for me as the broker and starting REC, I really thought that REC would attract experienced agents. I wasn't even really thinking about the new agent. And kind of what we found over time is, we have some experienced agents, but the agents that we're bringing on board are new agents like you both. There's also Nicole, who's a newer agent.
Mhm.
And it's been kind of interesting for me as an experienced agent then, sharing my perspective with you all. And you're both homeowners, so you've experienced real estate from the consumer side, the customer side, client side. So about real estate. And I know, Taylor, you didn't talk to another brokerage when you were getting your real estate license. Mark, you did talk to another brokerage. It was between REC and a well-established, larger brokerage. And we can kind of maybe get into that later. But it's been a really good experience bringing both of you on board, and just the background that you bring to real estate. Mark, you mentioned the IT background. That's been super helpful. And Taylor, you're just a strategic big thinker. So that's helpful. And then also you're of the age where social media is more intuitive to you than it is to, say, myself. So that's been really helpful. But the question we're going to pose to you both, or that I'm going to, like there's somebody else in the room, it's me, that I'm going to pose to you both is, why did you choose REC? Like, what are the top 3 reasons that you chose to join REC as a realtor? And I'll let you go first, Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's really the fact that it's not just a real estate company. REC is really about bringing like your whole self and your values to the job, and trying to spread awareness of housing justice, and trying to make it more fair for the client and the customer. And transparency is one of my core values at my business, Evergreen Collective. And so the fact that I could tie that together was really important to me. And I think that's one reason why I didn't talk to any other agencies. I definitely, while I was like, after I decided to become a real estate agent, because I really love homes, it's why I have a home goods store. I was always that friend when we were living with roommates. I was the one that found the apartments. I think I found all of my apartments when I had roommates.
Yeah.
And so it was a very natural fit for me to transition into that. And I lost the thread of what I was talking about, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think you
yeah.
did say 3 things already.
I probably
that
did.
I noted, and we'll kind of come back to those.
Sounds great.
Because I think they are kind of core reasons that we started REC in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know that the reasons that we started REC, resonated with you and with others, and certainly with our clients. But Mark, what are your 3 top reasons that you joined REC?
Yeah, and it was tough because there's so many reasons, and a lot of those I think kind of come from the higher level perspective of how you look at things overall, from a worldview perspective. But then there's also the actual tangible logistical details that go involved with these transactional based things that we're working through. And so I would say that I would answer it a little bit, at least in this segment, more from a higher level perspective, because as we've been kind of looking through in general with real estate and kind of what is there, and I think we'll get into that next week, more details when we talk about changing the paradigm of real estate. And I think that's where I came in from this perspective, especially being where I was at in Austin for so long. I just never felt like I was at the right point where we could get to that place, and to even have met people that have even said, hey, we want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And, just when Taylor made the recommendation and I saw the quote online that you had from Eboo Patel, in order to defeat things we don't like, we need to build the things that we do. And I think real estate and the way things have been done for a long time kind of fits into that for me. And I'm a creative person, a musician, and my partner as well, being a designer and an artist. And so we just enjoy being part of something that is collaboration instead of competition. And I feel like, especially working with, I think the best way that I would answer it is, the reason why rec makes sense for agents is because it makes sense first for the clients. And so our clients being both buyers and sellers, it's just as we get into some of those logistical details of how rec kind of works through the way that we were doing things differently, just in general makes sense for the client. And that's where we need to start. And I've seen that expansion just in the time that I've been here, from our partners with the lenders and the insurance, the title company. It's more of a collaboration effort, and it starts with the clients. So whether the buyers or the sellers. And so I know you guys have been talking about all of the different details with the retainers and the flat fees and, no dual agencies. So all of that fit basically into my decision, because I know it was not only the passion behind it from a worldview perspective, but also putting legs to it with a logistical numbers and how things are done differently, and saying, let's just try this and work with our clients the best we can to see how this is going to work and change in the paradigm.
Well, I think you both gave me a hard job of trying to pick out a few things to kind of talk about deeper, because there's just a lot there, which I really appreciate. And it is really great for me to hear why people choose rec, whether it's an agent or a client. And we're about to go to break, so it's going to give me a few minutes to look at my notes and kind of think about which threads that I want to pull. But you are listening to Reckoning with Real Estate, a show about the American dream and building a better real estate company. And you can find us at www, because I'm 80 years old, I have to say that, therecolab.com. So therecolab.com is where you can find us. And we will catch you on the other side of the break.
Take my breath away, oh, wrecking ball.
Welcome back to Reckoning with Real Estate. I am going to start with a big thank you to our sponsors, Taylor Hall with Evergreen Collective, who is here with us today. And then there's also Matt Berna with TruStone Home Financial, an equal opportunity lender. And finally, last but not least, Ben Feldman with Active Insurance Solutions. And all of their contact information is going to be at the bottom with links on YouTube or your podcast, wherever you are listening, or AM 950. And we're going to go into the second half of this show, which is why rec makes sense for realtors. And again, we have Taylor Hall and Mark Byers with us in studio today. They are both realtors with the Real Estate Collaborative. They're both relatively new realtors, and we're talking about why rec made sense for them to join. And they both, the first half, introduced themselves and kind of gave their top 3 answers for why rec made sense. And I took some notes, and I want to explore some of these a little more. And during the second half, I will start with Mark, and it'll just be a natural conversation. But one of the things you said early on was the quote about Eboo from Eboo Patel, that in order to defeat the things we don't like, we must build things that we do. And that's on our website. And that is one of the core principles of rec. And I think when you're Taylor, I'd be interested in your perspective from as a business owner, doing commerce,
Mhm.
but I have a lot of what's the word, like issues with the real estate industry, just um, in general, but then really specifically as well, having been doing it for so long. There are things that just made me not feel right about what I was doing from a consumer perspective, everything from dual agency to the percentage-based commissions. I always had just a lot of thoughts about that. And when we were starting Rec, it's a hard balance, I think, which was why I really liked the quote by Eboo Patel. For me, I don't want us to focus on what the real estate industry is getting wrong necessarily. I want us to put the nose to the grindstone and just build something better and build something different and kind of take those things and do them differently, which is what we're doing. And it's such a work in progress, which is another reason why I just enjoy the fresh energy and perspective that you all bring to it. Because, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, on some level, I'm just kind of, you make it up as you go along. And I'm really proud of kind of where we've come over the last 2.5 years. And I know we are moving, towards other things too. We're constantly kind of evolving and changing. And I feel like we really are collaborative.
Yes.
In terms of ideas and working together. But Taylor, actually, I'm going to ask you the question about you mentioned, which I think is similar to the Eboo Patel quote, but the poking holes in systems
Yeah.
and doing things differently. And
Yep.
so talk a little bit about how that resonates with you with Rec.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like first of all, with like you mentioned, I do commerce as my regular 9 to 5-ish, even though it's my own business. And I mean, and that really started from a passion of like just being uncomfortable with the way that we get the things that we use every day and wanting to find a better way and a more ethical and transparent way to get like literally everything that we use, which is basically impossible, to make it fully transparent. Like whatever. That's a rabbit hole I could go down. But I liked that it was similar with Rec, how you wanted to kind of like dip under the curtain and be like, just because this is how it's been done for a really long time, that doesn't mean that's how we have to continue to do things.
Right.
And I think that's actually one reason why I like joining Rec while it's still so young, is because I get to be a part of that change and that shaping and framing of how it becomes established. I love working with smaller agencies and smaller companies. I've always been drawn to small businesses. And the fact that we get to have so much say and push back and ask questions and learn was really exciting for me too.
Yeah. And Mark, what about you? I know you mentioned the Eboo Patel quote. You also mentioned being a creative person. And kind of how does that creativity fit into how you envision Rec and working with Rec?
Yeah, and I relate a lot to Taylor as well, because I feel like I've spent my whole life trying to poke holes at every system that's around, and it kind of wears you out a lot of times. I do understand the reason for the process, and there's a very big internal learning about doing that as you work through how systems work. But it's always like, why are we doing something this way? Well, it's the way it's always been done. That's not a good answer.
No,
I don't like that.
Never is that a good answer. Right.
It's just, and that happens so many ways. And sometimes, I mean, there's reasons for it, right? People get really busy and it's really difficult to unwind how we do things differently. And then there's the money thing, right? The money kind of causes people to just keep doing it that way.
Right.
And
if it's working for them, they're just going to keep doing it. And
yeah, exactly. And not even really having an understanding of how that affects multiple people at multiple different levels. If you do something a little bit differently, it may change for anybody. Like the
Yeah.
environment, or your neighbor being able to get a house or anything like that.
I want to pick up on that because I think that's a key thing for me that makes sense about rec. I can remember being at a big box broker for 15 years and then a boutique broker for a couple years where I think there were like 20 or 25 agents, so it was considerably smaller. But I was always thinking to myself, like, how do I differentiate myself from my other big box realtors? We're kind of selling the exact same thing. And you can see that across brokerages, even. We're selling the marketing, the 6% or the 5% or whatever the percentage is. We're selling the dual agency that rec does not do because we don't think it's consumer centric. And so that was another thing that I thought about a lot before starting rec, was how do you create something different? So then when agents join, you're selling something different just already, out of the chute. And as far as I know, there's not a brokerage in the Twin Cities that's doing things kind of how we're doing it on lots of different levels.
Yeah.
So,
and it is really fun to have those conversations with people. Because I've got a whole big display about rec at Evergreen, and I get to have that conversation at least once or twice a week on
that's awesome.
why I joined rec, why I
Mhm.
believe in the mission that we're pursuing. And it's actually really engaging and not just like, I'm a realtor. I don't know, which is also
Yeah.
fine, but like it's fun to have something a little bit more firm to stand on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about it from the other side, which is where I've always been, is either buying and selling real estate, and the number of transactions. Like if you think about it, there's just a confusion in how that works,
There
and
is.
it's not explained well, and it's just basically you're sitting there on the other side going, "There's got to be a better way than this." And so as I was coming into it, I was like, if there's anybody that started the process to begin to rethink how we're going to do things differently, collaborate with them and see how it goes. And so I think it's this, as you explain what this is going to be like to each new people that come, it's a collaboration process with them, because they begin to see, oh, I didn't realize that it could be like that, and I didn't even know that that's how it worked to begin with, because I'm maybe a
Right.
first time home buyer or first time home seller.
Right.
And so then you just kind of lose out on that front, and so you're kind of working with them. And that's why I was saying the collaboration with the lenders and the title companies and all of the people that are kind of part of this team, or I feel like it's a collaboration with the clients,
Yeah.
because they're the ones that are driving this.
Well, and one thing we've tried to do too, I think, is we're building out, like, people learn differently. Some people learn through conversation. Some people learn visually through reading. Some people learn maybe through listening to a podcast or a radio show like this. But having different formats to kind of reinforce what we do so that the client can really see that over and over again and absorb it the best, the best way for them. I do think, and I'm just going to mention this because I do agree that real estate is confusing, and it always has been, and it really shouldn't be, especially if it's the biggest purchase of somebody's life. And that's one thing. The percentages always, as a realtor, kind of drove me crazy. I can't do that math in my head. And especially not when the price is changing and you add in the closing costs and all of it, or the seller paid closing costs. So how could we make that easier and more transparent? And I think we landed on the flat dollar amount compensation. So when you sign a contract with us, it's going to be X amount. It's not going to be a percentage based on the sales price, which I think is huge.
Yeah. And I really like that, because then I never feel like I'm trying to sell somebody on something that I shouldn't be, because there'll be a bigger payout in the end. Like, it's all very transparent and upfront. We know the work that I'm going to do for somebody else. They know what to expect from me. And it just makes it a lot easier and a lot more collaborative.
Yeah. And even though we are collaborative, our clients generally have like one point person
Hmm.
during the process, but then
Mhm.
we all kind of help out in ways that make sense for who you are and what you're interested in. Like Taylor's doing some Facebook marketing. I don't even know what to call it, but the things that the carousel thing that you do to advertise the property, and it's
Yep.
very cool. And she tried to show me how to do it, and I gave up because, again, I'm 80 years old. It's just too much. But really playing to our strengths.
Yeah.
And kind of figuring out where we all fit. And I think right now there's 7 of us in the real estate collaborative, and we're just
I'm really excited to see how it all will play out. I know you're really focused on trying to figure out what roles you kind of want each of us to play,
yeah
or what we're very interested in. And I'm
yeah
excited to see how we can become more collaborative.
I am too. And talk about kind of blowing up the system. I
Yeah.
mean, real estate companies just generally aren't employee based, and we're going to try to figure that out. And that's a whole other topic. And I hear the music creeping in. Thanks for listening to Reckoning with Real Estate. You can find us at therecolab.com. THERE collab, short for collaborative, therecolab.com. And we hope that you listen in next week, and thank you for being here.